Blood still drips from barbed wire under a charred pine, where Comanche war leader Tahu Red Hand hangs dying in the freezing darkness of Palo Duro Canyon, October 1875. No one is coming to save him, except an 8-year-old white boy in a torn, oversized shirt and patched trousers, face smeared with ash, clutching a deer-bone knife and a vow that no one else will die in front of him tonight. One trembling child, one condemned warrior, one night when the canyon itself stops breathing. Will the smallest hands rewrite a bloody fate, or will fire and bullets swallow them both before sunrise? Hit subscribe right now so you don't miss a single heartbeat of this untold frontier legend. Drop a comment telling us where in the world you're listening from. Your spark keeps these forgotten stories alive. Stay until the red dawn. You won't believe how it ends. The wind across Palo Duro Canyon cuts like a skinning knife, carrying the stink of burnt cedar and fresh blood. October 4th, 1875. Night has swallowed the red walls whole, and the only light left is the dull red glow of a lone pine, still smoldering from the afternoon's raid. Tahu Red Hand hangs against that blackened trunk, arms wrenched high, wrists lashed to the tree with loops of barbed wire that bite deeper every time he breathes. The barbs have already carved red smiles into his flesh. Blood runs in slow and thick down his forearms, dripping from his fingertips onto sand already dark with it. His buckskin shirt is shredded, chest and belly opened in long, wet furrows from Bowie knives and bayonets. Each breath whistles through torn muscle. His long braids stick to the sweat and blood on his neck. He's 32 winters old, war chief of the Quahati, and right now he looks like something the coyotes should have finished hours ago. Silas Crowder's scalp hunters rode off at dusk, laughing, certain the cold would finish what their blades started. They left him for the wind and the buzzards. They were wrong. A small sound, boot leather scraping stone, drifts out of the darkness. Barely louder than the wind, but Tahu hears it. His head lifts a fraction. Eyes still sharp as obsidian track the shadows. A child steps into the dying fire glow. Jude Halper, 8 years old and small enough to look half that. A man's white cotton shirt, once his father's, hangs off his narrow shoulders like a tent, torn and soot-blackened, hem dragging past his knees. Brown trousers patched so many times that the original cloth is only a memory. Bare feet in the cold sand, hair wild as tumbleweed, face smeared with ash and tears that have carved pale rivers through the grime. In his right fist, he clutches a short deer-bone knife, knuckles white. He stops 10 feet away, staring up at the man bleeding out against the tree. His lips tremble, but the eyes, those eyes are old. Tahu's voice is gravel-scraped raw. "Go home, boy. Nothing here for you but dying." Jude doesn't answer. He walks straight to the trunk. The pine is still hot. Heat blisters the air around it. He reaches up, grabs a low branch, and starts to climb. Halfway up, the rattlesnake wakes. It's coiled on a limb no more than 2 feet from Tahu's head, thick as a man's wrist, scales the color of dried blood, flat head swaying, tongue tasting the night. The rattle starts, low and dry, the sound of death counting down. Jude freezes. The snake's eyes lock on his. For 3 heartbeats, the canyon holds its breath. Then the boy moves again, slower, deliberate, until his face is level with the rattlers. The snake strikes. Jude jerks back. Fangs snap empty air an inch from his cheek. He doesn't scream. He just keeps climbing, one hand over the other, until he's straddling the branch right beside Tahu's bleeding shoulder. The snake coils to strike again. Jude raises the bone knife. His hand shakes so hard the blade chatters against the wire, but he saws anyway. Sparks jump where steel meets steel. Each cut sends a fresh ribbon of blood down Tahu's arm, But the boy doesn't stop. Barbed wire bites into Jude's palms. Blood slicks the handle, makes it slippery. He shifts his grip, grits his teeth until the rattle fades behind the rasp of metal on metal. First loop snaps. Tahu's left arm drops like a dead weight. Second loop. Third. The snake lunges again. Jude ducks, feels the fangs scrape the collar of the oversized shirt. He keeps cutting. Last wire parts with a metallic twang. Tahu's full weight sags forward. The sudden shift nearly pulls Jude off the branch, but the boy hooks an arm around the warrior's neck, and they crash together to the ground in a tangle of blood, smoke, and pine needles. Jude lands hard on his back, wind knocked out. Above him, the rattlesnake slides away into the dark, Rattle fading like a warning that came too late. Tahu lies motionless in the sand, chest barely rising. Jude crawls to him, tears cutting clean lines through the soot on his face. He presses trembling fingers to the man's throat, feels the faint, stubborn pulse. "Not yet," he whispers, voice cracking. "You ain't dead yet." Far off, a whistle slices the night. 3 short notes, cold as winter iron. Crowder's signal, boots on stone, lanterns swinging. They're coming back to finish the job. Jude grabs Tahu under the arms and starts dragging him toward the narrow slot in the canyon wall that only a Comanche, or a desperate child, would know exists. Behind them, the pine flares one last time, throwing their shadows long and thin across the blood-soaked sand. The pine's final flare dies behind them as Jude hauls Tahu into the slot canyon, a knife-cut fissure no wider than a horse's shoulders. The walls sweat cold moisture and smell of bat guano and centuries of flood. The boy's bare feet slip on slick stone. The warrior weighs more than a full-grown elk, but fear lends Jude strength he never owned before. Tahu's head lolls. Blood leaves a black snail trail across the rock. Every few steps, his knees buckle, and he drops like a sack of grain. Each time Jude plants his small boots, braces his back against the warrior's chest, and heaves until something in his shoulders threatens to tear. Breath saws in and out of the boy's throat, raw as sandpaper. 20 yards in, the slot narrows so tight Jude has to turn sideways. He wedges Tahu's arm over his own neck and drags sideways, ribs scraping stone, the oversized shirt ripping further until it flaps like a surrender flag. Lantern light from the main canyon mouth flickers behind them. Voices echo. Crowder cursing the cold, ordering torches lit. They spill out into a hidden chimney, a pocket no map ever marked. Moonlight drips straight down from a crack overhead, silver on red rock. Jude lowers Tahu against the wall. The Comanche's eyes flutter open, black and bottomless, reflecting the moon like still water. For the first time, the boy sees the man clearly. Cheekbones sharp as flint, old knife scars across the ribs, fresh ones shining wet. Tahu tries to speak, only blood bubbles at his lips. Then his calloused hand, heavy as a branding iron, lifts and closes gently around Jude's thin wrist. No pressure, just contact. A silent debt. Jude's chest hitches. He understands. He nods once, fierce. Hoofbeats drum outside the slot, then the hiss of coal oil hitting dry grass. Flames whoosh up, hungry and orange, painting the fissure walls the color of fresh liver. Smoke rolls in, thick with creosote and death. Jude yanks Tahu upright again. We ain't done. They stagger deeper. The chimney twists, climbs, drops. Tahu's weight shifts. Suddenly he's half carrying the boy instead of the other way around. Blood soaks through Jude's shirt until both of them are glued together in it. Every time Tahu stumbles, visions rip through his fading sight. His wife, Morning Star, shoving their son behind her skirts as troopers fire. The boy's small body jerking like a rabbit. Tahu arriving too late, scooping up what was left while the lodge poles burned overhead. The memory hits so hard he almost goes to his knees again. Jude feels the warrior sag, digs his heels in, snarls through clenched teeth. You fall now, and I swear I'll drag you the rest of the way by your hair. Tahu's cracked laugh is barely a wheeze, but he keeps moving. They break into a dry wash, littered with flood-tossed cedar trunks. Smoke pours in after them, clawing at lungs. Jude spots a game trail snaking up the far wall, barely a ledge. He shoves Tahu toward it. The warrior tries. His legs betray him, folding like wet rawhide. Jude drops to all fours, wedges his back under Tahu's armpit, and stands. 8 years old, and he deadlifts a dying Comanche war chief up a goat path while fire roars at their heels. Shirt tears clean off one shoulder, skin rips on sharp cedar bark. Doesn't matter. They crest the ledge as the wash below becomes a furnace. Higher up, the wind clears the smoke. Stars wheel overhead, cold and indifferent. Tahu sinks against a boulder, breath rattling. Jude tears strips from what's left of the white shirt, binds the worst gashes as tightly as he can. His hands are crimson to the elbow. Tahu watches him, eyes never leaving the boy's face. When Jude finishes, the warrior lifts his hand again, this time pressing 2 fingers to the boy's soot-streaked cheek, tracing the path of a tear the child refuses to shed. Far off, dogs bay, closer than before. Jude grips the bone knife until his knuckles glow white in the moonlight. They're coming. Tahu nods once. Blood drips from his chin onto the stone between them. From the darkness below the ledge, a new voice, old and gravel rough, drifts up. Easy, boy. Lower that blade before you cut yourself. A silhouette climbs into view. Tall, gaunt, silver beard catching starlight. Spencer rifle cradled loose in sun-spotted hands. Luther Briggs steps into the moonlight, eyes fixed on the bleeding Comanche he once helped slaughter a village to catch. Reckon I owe you both a debt older than tonight, he says. Behind him, the canyon burns like the mouth of hell itself. Luther Briggs climbs the last few feet like a man hauling 10 years of ghosts on his back. The Spencer hangs easy in the crook of his arm, but his eyes never leave Tahu. 10 years ago, those same eyes had picked out the Quahati camp through a spyglass and marked the pony herd for the 4th Cavalry. Now they're sunk deep in sockets, red-rimmed, carrying the weight of every lodge that burned that dawn. Tahu's hand finds the hilt of the knife at his belt, but the motion costs him. Fresh blood pulses through Jude's makeshift bandages. The boy steps between them, bone blade up, shirt flapping like a battle flag shot full of holes. Touch him, and I'll open you from gizzard to gonads, old man. Luther stops 3 paces away. Wind whips his beard. He studies the child, barely tall enough to reach a saddle horn, yet standing like a badger over a wounded grizzly. Then shifts his gaze to the warrior bleeding out against the rock. I ain't here to finish what I started, he says, voice cracked from tobacco and regret. I'm here to square what I can't ever square. He unbuckles his gun belt slowly, lets it drop. The Spencer follows, clattering on stone. Then he kneels, knees popping like dry cedar in a fire, palms open on his thighs. Tahu's eyes narrow. Memory floods them. Blue coats pouring over the ridge. This same bearded scout riding point, pointing straight at the women's lodges. A low growl builds in the warrior's throat. Luther hears it and bows his head. I carried the map that put torches to your people. I heard the children scream. I still hear 'em every goddamn night. His voice cracks harder than the wind. Tonight the canyon's burning again. I figure fate's giving me one chance to stand on the right side of the smoke. Jude glances back at Tahu. The Comanche's breathing is shallow, but the hatred in his stare could skin a buffalo. Still, he gives the boy the smallest nod. Listen. Luther reaches slowly into his coat, pulls out a battered canteen, and tosses it underhand. It lands at Jude's feet with a slosh. Water and willow bark. Won't close the holes, but it'll quiet the fire inside him long enough. Jude snatches it, sniffs, then tilts Tahu's head and pours a trickle between cracked lips. The warrior swallows, coughs blood, swallows again. Down canyon, torches bob like angry stars. Crowder's voice carries on the updraft, promising slow deaths and bigger bounties. Luther rises. They'll burn the brush clear to the rim come sunup. Only one way left, up the chimney behind me, then across the knife back. I know it 'cause I helped map it for the army. Tonight I'm guiding it the other direction. He looks straight at Tahu. You want my scalp? Take it when we're clear. Till then, let me earn the right to offer it. A long beat. Wind moans through the rocks. Somewhere a burning cedar explodes, showering sparks into the night. Tahu's fingers tighten once on Jude's shoulder. Permission, or maybe just the last of his strength. Then he speaks, words scraped raw. Walk ahead, old man. If you lie, the boy will gut you before I can't. Luther exhales like he's been holding his breath since 1865. He turns, starts climbing the near-vertical chimney, fingers finding holds invisible to anyone who hasn't betrayed them once before. Jude slings Tahu's arm over his narrow shoulders again. Together, they follow the traitor-turned guide into the throat of the stone. Halfway up, Jude pauses, chest heaving, and speaks low, almost to himself. If you're riding this trail with us tonight, stranger or friend, hit that subscribe button. These stories don't stay alive on wind alone. Let us know in the comments where the night finds you. Helps keep the fire going. Then he digs his toes into the rock and hauls the wounded warrior higher, one desperate handhold at a time, while below, the canyon fills with smoke and the howl of men who still believe they own the dark. The chimney spits them out onto Knifeback Ridge just as the fire below crowns, leaping from cedar to cedar like a living thing. Heat slams upward in sheets, turning the night orange. Crowder's men have ringed the only two exits, one gang at the east saddle with rifles, the other driving the blaze straight at them. No trail left but forward, across a knife edge of rock no wider than a wagon tongue, with a 1,000-foot drop on either side. Luther goes first, back pressed to the wall, boots scraping for purchase. Jude follows, Tahu sagging against him, blood slicking both their skins. The ridge vibrates under the roar of the fire. Embers whirl past like angry hornets. Halfway across, rifles crack. Bullets chip stone, whine off into empty air. One slugs slap the rock inches from Jude's head. Luther spins, leverages the Spencer, and fires 3 fast shots that send the East Saddle Gang ducking. Return fire sparks around him. One round tears the sleeve off his coat and the flesh beneath. They reach a shallow scoop in the cliff. No cave, just a wind-hollowed sandstone. Dead end. Below, the fire has become a solid wall of red, rolling up the slope. Smoke boils thick as black wool. Crowder's voice rises over the crackle. End of the line, Red Hand. Throw the breed out. And maybe I'll let the kid walk. Silas Crowder himself steps into view 20 yards downslope, torch in one hand, Colt Navy in the other, 6 hard cases fanned behind him. Flamelight paints their faces devil red. Tahu tries to stand alone. His legs betray him. He drops to one knee, knife out, chest heaving blood bubbles. Luther jacks another round, but Crowder's men spread wide. Too many angles. The old scout lowers the rifle, knowing the math. Crowder grins, teeth white in the soot. Boy's been useful bait. Time to gut the hook. He lunges, snatches Jude by the scruff of that ragged shirt, and jerks him out like a sack of feed. The Colt barrel kisses the boy's temple, cold iron on hot skin. Drop the iron, old man. Knife, too, breed. or I paint the rocks with his brains. Luther's Spencer clatters down. Tahu's blade follows. Crowder laughs, low and ugly. See? Even savages got something to lose. Jude's eyes, wide, fierce, 8 years old and already ancient, lock on Tahu. The boy's lips barely move, but the words cut through the fire roar clear as a bell. Pa's dead, mister. Died right in front of me. Gut shot, begging me to run. You lied to keep me leash walking. I ain't your bait no more. I came tonight so nobody else gets to die, watching the light go out of somebody they could have saved. The ridge goes still. Even the fire seems to listen. Crowder's grin falters. The colt wavers a fraction. Tahu rises. Not smooth, not pretty. Just raw will drag meat and bone upright. Blood pours fresh from every wound, but the eyes burn hotter than the blaze behind him. He takes 1 step, 2 steps forward, bare-chested, knife gone, empty hands open. Crowder recovers. Thumb cocks the colt. Stay back, breed! Tahu keeps coming. Luther, bleeding from the arm, quietly thumbs a shell into the Spencer's breech. Jude twists suddenly in Crowder's grip, drives his heel into the man's shin. The bounty hunter snarls, grip loosens half a second. Just enough. Jude drops, rolls clear. Tahu charges. Crowder fires. Flame spits. The bullet rips across Tahu's ribs, spins him half around, but momentum carries him the Comanche forward like a falling pine. He crashes into Crowder, shoulder to chest, driving the man backwards toward the drop. Luther's rifle booms once. The slug takes Crowder high in the shoulder, spins him further. The colt flies from his hand, clatters over the edge into darkness. Tahu and Crowder teeter on the brink, locked together, blood to blood. For one heartbeat, the fire lights them both. Predator and prey become one silhouette against the inferno. Then they go over. Jude screams, but Tahu's hand shoots out at the last instant, catches a cedar root jutting from the cliff. Crowder's weight yanks him down. The root groans, splinters. Tahu's grip holds. Crowder dangles, boots kicking empty air, eyes bulging. The remaining hard cases freeze, rifles half raised, unsure who to shoot. Tahu looks down at the man who burned his village, who murdered a child's father for sport. He opens his hand. Crowder drops, screaming into the fire below. The ridge erupts in gunfire. Luther works the Spencer like a man possessed. 2 hard cases go down before they clear leather. The rest break, scattering into the smoke. Silence falls, broken only by the roar of the fire and the ragged breathing of 3 souls still alive. Tahu slumps against the rock, blood sheeting down his side. Jude crawls to him, presses both small hands to the new wound, as if he could hold the life in by sheer will. Luther limps over, face gray. We ain't clear yet. Fire's climbing fast. Tahu lifts his head, eyes finding the boys. Almost done, little warrior, he rasps. Almost. Dawn bleeds up the canyon rim like a fresh knife wound, turning the smoke from black to rust. The fire has burned itself hoarse below, leaving only crackling bones of cedar and the stink of scorched earth. Tahu sits propped against the sandstone scoop, shirt long gone, torso wrapped in strips torn from Luther's coat and Jude's ruined white shirt. Every breath whistles through the hole in his side, but the bleeding has slowed to a sullen seep. Luther lies 3 feet away, back against the same rock, left arm cradled in his lap. The graze along his ribs has soaked his shirt dark, but it's the hole high in his chest, Crowder's last wild shot, that matters. Blood bubbles at the corner of his mouth with every word. Reckon. I finally rode point for the right outfit, he rasps, trying for a grin. It comes out crooked. Tahu watches him without blinking. After a long minute, he nods once, slow, the way a man acknowledges a debt that can never be fully repaid. Jude kneels between them, Small hands pressed to Luther's chest, as if warmth alone could plug the wound. Tears have cut clean trails through the soot on his cheeks, but his jaw is set hard. "You ain't allowed to die, old man. Not after all that." Luther coughs a laugh that turns into a wet rattle. "Boy, I've been dead since the day I drew that map. Tonight I just caught up." He fumbles inside his coat with his good hand, pulls out a folded, sweat-stained paper. Army survey map of Palo Duro, edges charred. He presses it into Jude's bloody fingers. "North Rim Trail, marked in red, leads to the Llano. Your people still ride there, Red Hand. Take the boy. Keep him safe from what's coming." Tahu's eyes flick to the map, then to the child. Something shifts behind the pain. Recognition, maybe, or the first faint ember of purpose. Far below, a horse whinnies, one of Crowder's mounts, spooked by the fire, running loose. The sound echoes up the red walls like a summons. Tahu braces a hand on the rock, forces himself upright. The world tilts. He locks his knees until it steadies. Then he bends, slides one arm under Luther's shoulders. "Up!" Luther tries to wave him off. "Leave me. I'll only slow." Tahu's grip tightens. "You walk, or I carry you. Choose." The old scout stares, then huffs a pained chuckle. "Bossy son of a bitch." With Jude pushing from behind, they get Luther to his feet. The three of them stagger along the narrow ledge as the sun clears the rim, turning the canyon into a furnace of red gold. Heat shimmers off the stone. Buzzards already circle high, black specks against the blinding sky. Half a mile on, the ridge widens into a shallow bowl where a lone pinto, Crowder's own horse, saddle empty, reins trailing, stands ground-tied by fear. Tahu whistles low, 2 notes sharp as flint striking steel. The horse's ears prick. It trots over, snorting at the blood smell. Jude helps Luther into the saddle first. The old man sags forward, clutching the horn with his one good arm. Then, Tahu lifts the boy, light as a hawk despite the night's weight, and sets him behind the saddle. Finally, he swings up in front, bare back against the pinto's neck, legs clamping hard to stay mounted. He reaches down. Luther stares at the offered hand for a long moment, then takes it. Tahu hauls him up sideways across the horse's withers like a rolled blanket. Luther grunts but doesn't complain. The pinto steps out, picking its way along the rim trail marked in faded red on the map, now tucked inside Jude's torn shirt. Behind them, smoke still rises in a thick column, a funeral pyre for Silas Crowder and every lie he ever sold. Jude's small arms circle Tahu's waist, fingers sticky with mixed blood. He rests his cheek between the warrior's shoulder blades, feeling the stubborn thud of a heart that refused to quit. "Where are we going?" he asks, voice hoarse but steady. Tahu looks north, where the caprock breaks into rolling shortgrass, shimmering under first light. "To find what the world took," he says. "Then we take it back." The horse crests the final rise. For a heartbeat, the three of them are silhouetted against the newborn sun, warrior, child, and dying penitent, riding out of the smoke as one shadow. Below, Palo Duro lies scorched and silent, the canyon that held its breath all night finally exhaling in the morning wind. They do not look back. The smoke has cleared over Palo Duro, but the story still burns. A dying Comanche chief, an 8-year-old boy in a blood-soaked shirt, and an old traitor who finally chose the right side of the fire. Tonight they rode out together into a dawn that didn't owe any of them a thing. Did the canyon change them? Or did they change the canyon? Drop your thoughts below. What hit you hardest? What you'd have done differently? Every comment keeps these forgotten trails alive. We're grateful you rode the night with us, until the next moonrise, and the next untold story waiting under it. Keep your powder dry and your heart open. See you on the ridge.